I'm back with a IMR Scary Tales video. I think I was going to say MRI. So this is a long video. This is about 24.5 minutes long. 3 true animated horror stories. We moved into a cursed house. That's all it basically says. There's no other thing for that. So I guess we'll see what happens. Got my window open for some nice light, but you know, it's not, it's only, you know, 2:28. It's not, you know, it's afternoon. I can have the curtain open, unlike these people have the no curtains, and then they wonder why they got fucked up. Like, anyway, without further ado, let's get into this video. Let's see how many freaking red flags are going to be here. Story 1, cursed house. Okay, that's really quiet.
Mom, older brother, and I moved into a house of our own. Up until then, we were living with my sister, her husband, and my 2 nephews until my mom got back up on her feet.
Okay.
Even before moving into this new house, I was somewhat of a troubled child, for lack of a better word. I would wake up screaming most of every morning from horrible nightmares. I used to say I would see 2 little girls in the upstairs bedroom. There were no little girls in the house. It wasn't until years later after we moved that my sister had moved and found out that 2 little girls had passed away in the house a few years before moving in.
That's sus.
But I'm getting off track here. We moved across town into some fairly decent duplex homes. Would-be spacious 3-bedroom house. We were all excited to finally have our own home, and finally have our own room. No more sleeping on the couch. Our excitement fairly quickly diminished when we started experiencing things that we couldn't explain. My mom was fairly religious in the sense that we didn't attend church, but we would pray every night before bed and before each meal, and sometimes read Bible stories. That being said, about the month after moving in, my cousin who worked for the local church had gifted us some blessed palm crosses. My mother took them and hung one above the back door, which was connected to the kitchen, and one near our living room door, which was adjacent to the kitchen, residing by the stairs that led upstairs.
Okay.
A few days after hanging them, we started noticing every morning when we'd come down for breakfast, one would be on the floor. So after a few days, my mother decided to hang them from 2 nails and attach a piece of tape to the back in hopes that they would stop falling off.
Yeah, with nails.
Thinking that a breeze or something of such knocked them down. I have a hard time remembering in depth all the experiences we encountered, but I do remember hearing someone inside the wall talking to me. My mother was the first to really notice this because I would stop playing with my toys in the living room a few feet from the front of her and look up and say, "It's back," then continue playing.
That's sus.
Over the next few months, more and more weird things started happening. Toys in my room would go off randomly. Toys that you would have to wind up or use a remote control to move. I had picture books with buttons that would talk attached to the book, and they would be in our hallway closet. At the most random times, they would go off like someone was pressing them. It was at this point that we were experiencing 3 occurrences, and my mom started to believe that there may be something paranormal going on.
Clearly.
She went out and got some sage and attempted to clean the house while my brother and I were at school and he was at work. She recounts that she saged the entire house. Living room, kitchen hallways, bathroom, my brother's room, and her room.
No curtain.
But as she was entering my room, she got an off-putting feeling. She nevertheless walked in and started to sage my room.
Close the curtain.
As
Dark
she's
outside.
walking around my room, she hears someone whisper her name. Deborah. She describes it as a low whisper. She, of course, was on edge, but tried to logically explain it away and finish the saging. Not even 5 minutes after she heard the whisper, she heard another whisper. This time, it was more pronounced. Deborah. She says she froze, and as she did, her ponytail lifted up and dropped back down, slouching on her back. She then slowly walked out of my room, went down the stairs, got the car keys, ran out the front door, and drove to my school. She stayed there for 4 hours until the end of the school day.
Wow.
We went to my aunt's and didn't return home until we picked up my brother from work later that night. It seemed like after her attempt to clean the house with sage, the activity really started to pick up. My brother would often hear someone whispering their name, Deborah, Joseph.
I would literally
or
like
would
run the
sometimes
fuck
hear
out.
what
No, I would
sounded
not
like
be able
someone
to
or
deal with that.
something telling them to say profanities.
Like I would not be able
My
to
mom
deal with
didn't know
that.
where to go, who to see, or what to do. The
Leave.
people she told what was going on thought she was crazy, and the other house just didn't want to hear it. So all we could do was continue to pray and keep a positive attitude. Whatever was in that house seemed to target myself and my mother more than my brother. We don't know why. Eventually I stopped sleeping in my room and started sleeping with my mom. I used to say there was a man that lived in my closet. I would take my family up to my closet and show them where the man was, of course, and they never saw anything. But I did. It was about a year of living there
So it's
when
like
my
only
mother
you're
and I
seeing
started
something and then
seeing
no one
things.
else is.
She would wake up one night and see the silhouette of a man on the ceiling over the bed, but she wouldn't be able to move or make a sound.
Sleep
Then
paralysis.
she'd drift back into sleep like nothing happened.
That's kind
A
of
few
weird.
nights later I would wait, the same experience. We would often see
Close the
what appeared to be
curtains.
red glowing eyes looking through windows.
Well, if you close the
I would
curtains, you
feel
wouldn't have to
at
worry
night
about that
like
now, would
someone
you?
had carried me out of the bed and had somehow got me outside. I couldn't wake up, but I could feel the cold wind and hear it and various other sounds from outside. We would often see what appeared to be shadows peeking around corners and ducking back when we'd look in their direction.
That's creepy
But
as hell. I would
There
not
was
be able
one
to deal
encounter
with
by
that.
far
Like,
that shocked us both to the core.
I wouldn't be able to
One
sleep.
night we're in bed and my brother was working graveyard. I was passed out and my mom, being a mom, couldn't sleep until she knew my brother was home safe. She sat at the foot of the
So
bed,
she was
which
up all
was about
night.
2 feet away from her small stand that
So
held
she
our
was up
old
all night
Dell
waiting for her
computer.
brother or waiting
She
for her
was
son to come
playing one of
home.
the old programmed games when she says she thought she heard something down the hall. She crowned her neck to the side to peek down the hall and didn't see anything. Not thinking anything of it, she continued to play the game. That's when she heard the sound again. This time it was louder. She says when she crowned her neck around the corner this time, she saw some kind of bony, flesh-colored creature
Oh
walking
my God.
from around the corner. As if coming from either the bathroom, my brother's room, or the stairs that were in the middle of the hallway and entering
That
the
is
bedroom.
literally, that is petrifying as hell.
The best way she could describe it was, it sort of resembled the alien from the movie Aliens. The long pointed head, but smaller, fleshier-like. She says she let out a gasp, and the creature just froze in place. It stopped like it heard the gasp, and slowly turned its head and stared at her with no distinct facial features whatsoever that she could see. She sat there frozen in fear, knowing that it was aware of her presence. She started to pray, at which point it turned and slowly walked into my bedroom. Again, she didn't know what to do in the situation. Does she wake me up and walk us down the hallway, crossing past my bedroom door to get to the stairs to leave the house? Does she call the cops? Do we climb out the bedroom window and jump from the second story to the ground? What does she
There's
do?
a lot of options, you know?
She sat there for a good 5 minutes and somehow got the courage to go see what the creature was and what it was doing. Ready for a battle, she stood up, walked down the hallway, flicked on the hallway light, walked into my bedroom, flicked on the light, and to her astonishment, there was nothing there. She checked everywhere, under the bed, in the closet, made sure the window was locked, but there was nothing there. She then returned
close
to
the
the
fucking
bedroom and
curtains.
sat there all night, waiting for my
How
brother
are
to
they
come
still
home.
open?
The next day was fine. There was no kind of experiences whatsoever.
Okay.
Not to say that these occurrences happened on a daily basis. When it came time for bed, she put me in and said she had to go see my brother. I lay there on my side, facing away from the door. What I didn't know is that she was going to tell him about what had happened the night before. A few minutes passed, and I feel her sit on the bed next to me, so
That's not
I
her.
roll over to say goodnight and all the good stuff. But when I rolled over, it wasn't her sitting there. What I saw, and I swear to God,
Oh my
may he strike
God.
me dead right now if I'm lying. What I saw was a darkish colored creature with flesh clinging to it, with its long head looming over me. I screamed. I didn't know what else to do. I screamed so loud that I'm certain I woke the neighbors on the other side of us. As I sat up to push myself off the bed to run out the room, the creature, in one quick motion, darted either under the bed or into the corner somewhere as I ran out the room down the hall.
What?
I see my mom and brother, pale as a ghost, shaking on the verge of passing out, trying to explain what I just saw and that we need to leave. Mind you, up until this point, what my mother and I experienced, we never shared. I was 5 or 6 at the time. I didn't know what she had seen and vice versa. But it was that experience that was the last straw in a sense. We ended up sleeping on the couch that night. The next morning I drew them to the best of my ability what I saw. And it confirmed what my mother had seen the previous night. We didn't live there for too much longer, but until that day, we experienced unexplainable phenomenons. On the day we were moving, both crosses that I mentioned earlier were thrown off the wall into the middle of the 2 rooms at the bottom of the stairs without there being any wind or draft or anything that could expel it away.
And were they not nailed and taped?
When moving out, I had to go through all my books and decide which ones I wanted to keep and which ones I was going to give away.
Okay, fuck the books and leave, my dude. They're books.
I stumbled upon an old book that was way too advanced for my reading level as a 6-year-old, and it didn't belong to my mom or brother either.
It's called Trolls.
The book was about trolls.
Trolling?
It was when I saw this book and saw the creepy drawing of the sinister troll on the cover that I was able to tell my mom that was him. That was the man that sat in my closet. This was roughly 16 to 17 years ago now, and I often wonder if the people who lived in the house after us ever experienced anything in that home.
Wow, so 16, 17 years later, when you were 5 or 6, so you were like 21, 22.
That weren't as prominent or terrifying as the ones mentioned above. I know this was long, but if you want any more clarity or anything like that, just let me know. I'll be happy to do my best to elaborate further. It
11 minutes, that's right, it was. 11 minutes.
Share this encounter and not get judged or looked at as a loony or a liar.
Again, I've never had anything like this, so I can't really say that I relate, not that I want to. What's this story about? Haunted house, of course.
8 years ago, when I was about 10.
8 years ago.
My family relocated to a small, single-story house with the intention
that
of
tree is sus
renovating
as
and
hell.
flipping it.
And then
It was
looks like there's a bunch of factories behind you, that's sus.
And it wasn't originally designed to be a house. It was more of an office building. My parents converted the largest office into the master bedroom because it had a bathroom attached to it. My siblings shared another room on the outer perimeter of the house.
If that is a freaking window, you better get curtains for that shit.
The center, so there was no windows. When I first walked into the small
isolated
chamber I would be sleeping in, I immediately got the sense like I wasn't allowed in there. It was like I was breaking some kind of unspoken rule, and I couldn't shake it. I tried to distract myself by setting up my furniture and toys, trying my best to personalize the room and make it feel more welcoming. But the feeling just continued to strengthen. It was like I was vandalizing someone else's property. My door was open as I was finishing up, and at that moment I happened to be the only one in the house. I then heard the frantic scurrying of paws across the kitchen flooring up the hall. I'm sure most of you know the sound. I smiled and ran into the hall, because I assumed our dogs had arrived.
Totally.
The idea had been to keep them at our friend's place until we had a fence up in the backyard, but apparently the plans had changed. I caught the sight of a shadow figure.
What is that?
Lurking in the corner, and then it disappeared toward the main entrance.
It looks like a tail, so it kind of looks like a dog, but...
Then the sound stopped, and at that point all I could hear was the tense silence. I looked all around, but my dog wasn't anywhere in sight. There hadn't been a sound of a door closing. I went outside and asked my parents where the dogs were, and they gave me a quick reminder that the dogs wouldn't be coming for another few days. My 10-year-old brain couldn't process what just happened, but instead of trying to explain what I had seen, I just kept quiet. I spent the night in my siblings' room, half convinced that there was an animal running loose somewhere in the house. Fast forward about 3 months, and the house was coming together nicely.
Yeah, okay.
And I was feeling much more comfortable in my bedroom. The strange, unwelcoming feeling had subsided, and I was actually enjoying my cavern of privacy.
For now.
However, one night I woke up to the sound of whispering in my room. I sat up and paused, half convinced that I heard my own name being spoken from across the room. I then reached over and flipped on my light, but there was absolutely nothing there. I turned the light back off and settled back into bed, and I would have dismissed this altogether if not for what happened next.
Oh my god.
I heard my younger sister start screaming from her room. I followed my parents down the hall to her room, where she was literally shaking in fear. She said that someone was calling her name from near the window. She stated that someone had been taunting her, trying to get her to leave the room and head to the small pond in the backyard.
That is sus.
She said that she had seen something looking at her through the window.
Pond in the backyard, is that what I just heard?
Porch light
Is that a
and went out
sus?
back to put her mind at ease. He came back within a few minutes and said that he hadn't seen anything.
Yeah, let's say that window's like a big window and it's like tilted open. Why the fuck is it open? Close the window and get a fucking curtain.
Out of that house, my father did confess that he had seen something out by the pond. It was an animal
That's totally
of some kind,
sus.
and he assumed it was a bobcat. He got the feeling that
That looks
he
like a
was in
human
some
crawling
kind
like
of
a sus
danger from
bitch.
it.
That's
He
what
then
that
made
looks
his
like.
way back inside. My sister then told me that she couldn't sleep for the rest of that night
Well, yeah.
because she saw something with red eyes stalking around in the backyard
Well,
through her
if you had fucking
window,
curtains.
coming into view every few minutes.
Jesus, like,
Now
geez,
here's
not
where
people.
things start to get even stranger.
Oh my
The
god.
first two occurrences could be dismissed as imagination,
It's not
paranoia,
imagination. It's not
or
that.
nightmares. But even my parents began to feel uneasy after what happened next,
Which is?
though they didn't show it at the time. It was in the middle of the day, and my sister and I were watching TV in the living room when we heard a thudding sound coming from across the roof.
Of course you did.
We collectively lost our minds because the footfalls were so heavy. We were convinced that a bear or something was trying to break in. We could hear the support beams in the ceiling straining under the weight.
Bear my
We hid
ass.
behind the couch, which in retrospect was stupid.
What the fuck's that gonna do?
Heading down to the basement would have probably been safer if something was about to fall through our roof. When my parents got home, we didn't have to say anything because the footsteps hadn't stopped.
Oh
My
my
dad
god.
grabbed this rusty old pitchfork that he kept in the garage and went outside, ready to prod something down off the roof. He assumed that it was a dog of some kind.
Yeah, dogs on the
I should
roof.
point out that our dogs weren't home that day, though I can't remember the exact reason.
Of course
The
you
only
can.
way up onto the roof was this dead tree alongside the opposite wall of the
That is a
house,
sus-ass
and
tree.
my dad climbed up with no problem. But when he got to the roof,
That is
there was
sus.
nothing there. Well, nothing except for a toy horse that I had lost the first week we moved in.
Oh my god, yeah,
There
it's
was
a
also
person.
my sister's doll that she
Yeah.
had brought home
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah, it's a person.
And even when my dad stomped as hard as he could across the roof, he couldn't replicate the noise that we had all heard before. My parents had the tree cut down that weekend. There were a
Finally.
few instances where the TV would misbehave and turn off by itself during the night, but nothing of real concern to happen until that summer.
Of course, more
The
stuff
housework
happened.
was finished, and we were all getting ready to move out. As a buyer had already been found, I was playing hide and seek with my sisters, and had chosen this chest in the back room as the best place to lay low. There were a whole bunch of coats and boots and random things in there, and when I climbed in and hid myself among the coats, I felt my leg bump against someone else. My younger sister seemed
What?
to have the same idea as me, and was already hiding in there.
Oh.
I didn't want to give us away, so I didn't say anything, but instead I just carefully shut the lid. There was just enough room for the both of us. I'm not sure how long we were in there for, but I heard my older sister walking through the room looking for us a
So
couple of
playing hide and
times,
seek or something,
and
okay.
after a few minutes of silence, I poked my head up through the coats and cracked the lid of the chest to get some air. Through the door to the next room, I could see my sisters looking around the family room for me. Both of my sisters. I screamed
Wait, what?
and shot up so fast that I smacked my head against the chest lid, and I made to scramble out of there. And that's when something grabbed my leg. It wasn't a firm grab, but it was more of a confirmation,
Oh my god.
like something was trying to say,
I was here the whole time.
The whole chest fell forward, and I scrambled
Oh my
out,
God.
wailing like a siren and bawling my eyes out. When my sisters saw me, they began panicking, asking why I was so bruised up. I went to the
hello.
bathroom and discovered that I had scratches and bruises all up and down my arms, legs, and neck. They weren't so bad that I was bleeding or anything. but I did look like I had let someone poke at me with thumbtacks for a while. My parents were convinced that my sisters had attacked me, even after I told them that I had been in the trunk. We moved away that summer.
Finally.
Looking back, it's funny how quickly abnormal things
I
like
hope they
that
cut down that
become
tree.
totally irrelevant when you get a change of scenery. Life goes on. My family and I still remember those events, but rarely ever speak of them. Not because we're afraid. It's
They're close to
because
our-
we don't really see much point to it. I wonder if that's how most people adapt after experiencing something they could never explain. Dismissive and indifferent. Like it may as well have never happened.
What's this one gonna be? Another haunted shit? Zoom call.
My
Okay,
name is
finally.
Chloe, and this story happened to me 2 weeks ago. I'm 32 years old and have a 10-year-old son named Jesse.
Wait,
Every
you're
now and
Chloe
then, the
and
company
yet you're a
I work
guy.
for requires me to travel across the state and other parts
That's
of the
a guy,
country
is
to
it
take
not?
place in important business meetings that are mandatory for me to attend. Thankfully, my bosses are understanding of the situation. Jesse's father isn't in the picture, so my work allows me to bring Jesse with me on business trips. Most of the time, we stay in a rented lodge or an apartment. A few weeks ago, I had to go on another business trip.
Of course you did.
It was out in the country, which was nice because the house me and Jesse will be staying in was a real small lodge, which was very secluded.
Okay.
The night before the meeting, I was on a Zoom call with my colleagues at around 10 p.m. while Jesse
10
was
p.m.
upstairs playing on his Nintendo Switch.
I remember hearing this story
During
already.
my Zoom call, Jesse called me from upstairs telling me I need to see something. I excused myself from the call and headed upstairs. I went into his room and asked him what was wrong. He told me there was a man outside looking up into his window. I looked out into the dark field and couldn't see anything.
Wait, did he say his name was
I told Jesse
Chloe?
I couldn't see
Or
anybody out
Jesse?
there.
How do you even
He said the
mistake
man
those?
walked off into the darkness as he called for me.
Again, there's
But
no
he said
fucking
it was
curtain,
me.
is there?
But I had to brush
Those
it
are
off
dummies.
as maybe it was a dog walker or something. I usually think rationally when it comes to things like that. I told Jesse to tell me if he sees the man again. I then returned to my Zoom call. About an hour went by when one of my bosses suggested we took a quick bathroom and drink break. Leaving the Zoom call on as we usually do, I went to put a pot of tea on and went upstairs to check how Jesse was. I asked if he was okay and if he saw anything outside. He told me he hadn't seen anybody since. I tucked Jesse in the bed and went back downstairs to continue my business call on Zoom.
Okay.
Most of the colleagues were back on from the break, apart from a couple. One of my bosses said, "Oh, that's strange. I thought I just saw you walking around the kitchen."
Yep.
The laptop that
Yep.
I was using for the call was set on the table in the living room, which was opposite the kitchen, which also had a back door. I replied saying, "No, I was just upstairs." He said he was certain that he saw me walking around
Yeah,
the kitchen.
then take
I
it
laughed and I
seriously.
told him he was seeing things. My pot of tea
Dummy.
started to boil. I had
Dummy.
forgot about it. As I walked into the kitchen, I noticed the back door was slightly open.
They're red
I
flag.
thought it was odd, especially being what my boss just said to me. But I chalked it up to Jesse forgetting to close the door.
It's always shocking after
He was
this,
outside
shocking
playing
after
earlier
that.
that day after
Like,
all.
stop brushing shit
I
off.
closed it and locked the door, poured myself some tea, and sat down and continued my Zoom call. About 10 minutes go by and I started to feel funny, like really sleepy all of a sudden.
Yeah, because your tea's
But it
poisoned.
wasn't a normal feeling. I felt fine and all of a sudden I felt like I couldn't keep my eyes open. And that's what happened. I fell asleep on the Zoom call. I didn't know at the time, but I was out for about 10 minutes until I woke up to Jesse frantically pulling me, trying to wake me up. He told me there was a man outside trying to get in. I turned around and I saw a man on the other side of the back door pulling the door handle in an aggressive way. He looked furious, as he couldn't get inside. This means that what my boss said to me earlier, when he
That's
thought
true.
he saw me in the kitchen, was true. That man did get in the house as I was upstairs checking on Jesse. He must have spiked my tea, and that's what made me fall unconscious. Once unconscious, I think he was planning to enter the house and assuming the door was still unlocked to take my son away. The thought of this makes me sick to my stomach. I thank God that I noticed the door slightly open and locked it shut. This story could have had an awful ending otherwise. We called the police and they searched the area, and not surprisingly, they found no one. Jesse and I returned home
Okay,
after
if that's
that.
where your house is around a bunch of trees, then
for the
you're
rest of my
sus.
life, and Jesse's too.
Okay, that was the longest video of my life. Like these long videos are killing me. Like, oh my god. Okay. If you guys are still here, that's great. I really hope you are, because like, why the hell did I interact to this if you're not? But you know. Okay. Oh my god, I gotta stretch out that shit, man. I don't like how people always just chalk shit up. Oh yeah, it's probably this, probably that. Bitch, shut up. Don't just say it's probably this, probably that. Don't just think rationally. Think what could it actually be. Okay, one, my boss just told me that there was someone walking in my kitchen, and now the door's open. Put two and two together and be like, what the fuck? Like, I don't understand people. Like, I don't. Or like having no curtains. Like that one person, that kid that saw someone in the window. Well, yeah, you literally have a freaking window that's like this big, just like I do, and then you're here just like keeping it open like an idiot, like as if, oh, nothing's gonna happen, like totally. And then she seemed to be like on like the normal floor too, like not on like the second floor like I am. Which obviously if there was someone in my fucking window, I'd be fucking going ape shit, because like the fuck I'm on the second floor, first of all. But at nighttime, just seeing someone in the window, I'd probably go fucking ape shit. Again, that's why it's closed, and I would not know. Again, there probably was someone there, or there could have been. Or just some kind of big animal that I might think is a human or something, but I don't know. But again, I wouldn't know that. Why not? Because I have my fucking curtain closed. Excuse my French, but you know. I don't understand people. Like, they just chalk shit up and just make it seem like as if it's no big deal. So in the corner of in the closet, basically, I sleep here, right, in my bed, obviously, and then basically straight ahead, you see a closet, which there's a doll from like years and years ago that my sister got from her godmother or godparent. And it's just been there the whole time. She hasn't taken it to her new house because she moved out a bit ago, but she left it there. And basically, it's on like a big ass shelf. It's on like a tall shelf, with like the thing on top, like the actual doll, which obviously has like a face, has hair. It's a doll, right? And I'm surprised. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised it hasn't moved. If it starts moving or looking at me right now, I'm gonna go ape shit. But that's beside the point. I wake up half the time and then it's dark, right? But I can still see the closet and stuff. Of course, my cat keeps breaking into my door. Well, yeah. So I'm lying in bed and I'm kind of like, what? And then I see something tall, because it's kind of like you see like a big. It's like you see a. Because like the thing is also, it's like a brown shelf, right? So it's kind of like dark as well as it is dark, just from the dark, and. It just looks like a silhouette with like skinnier as you go up, and then I'm kind of like, what the fuck is that? And then I'm like, oh my god, it's just a doll. I'm okay. You know what I mean? Like, I freak out because like I have no idea what it is, right? Let me close the door. Like, legit, I have to literally start closing my door fully, or else my cats are just gonna keep breaking in. But that's gonna be it for this video. But like, do you guys get what I mean? Like, don't just chalk shit up as this is this has to be that. There's no way it's that, there's no way it's this. Like, stop it, just stop it. And for God's sakes, get a curtain. Like, are you stupid? Like, are you actually apparently I can't talk, but are you actually stupid? Like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave this open, nothing's gonna happen, especially on the normal floor, like no one's totally just gonna like look in, see what's going on inside. You never know. Keep your shit closed. Like, it's not that freaking difficult. Like, it's literally so simple. Like, pull that shit down, you're done. Like, once it's installed, you're good. Close that shit, you're good. Or hopefully you're good. At least no one can watch you from inside your house, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like that difficult. Just do it and you're fine. Like, I don't know what the issue is here. Like, I don't at all. Just a bunch of stupid people, in my opinion. But that's gonna be it for this video. Please be sure to subscribe if you are new. Be sure to comment down below your thoughts on this video, and let me know if you guys have had any experiences like this. Any kind of like paranormal stuff, or kind of like that sort of thing. And don't dismiss paranormal shit either, because it's probably paranormal, especially if it's like really unexplainable. Like when the window's open, like the door works on, it's closed by itself. When the windows are closed, my door does not move unless my cats or another person opening it, obviously. But if it opens by itself and there's no cats and my cats are here, everyone else is asleep, and I know that for a fact because I open the door and then no one's there. Then that's when you move the out of the house. Okay. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I might as well show you guys my cat. Well, not, he keeps breaking into my freaking room. Anyway, as always, be sure to subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on this video, any other suggestions you may have. And again, if you have any stories of your own, if you do, let me know, and then we'll... No. Okay, bye guys. Thanks for watching. Peace out.